I need to tell you something about Leo compatibility that almost no one talks about. And if you're a Leo or you're trying to understand why your relationship with a Leo feels the way it does, this might be the most important thing you hear all year. You see, everyone thinks they know Leo. They'll tell you Leos are dramatic, attention-seeking, ego-driven. They'll say any fire sign will work, or that opposites attract, so Aquarius must be the perfect match. But here's what I've observed after years of working with Leo placements and the people who love them. Most compatibility advice about Leo is dangerously incomplete. It's not wrong exactly, but it's missing the energetic growth that determines whether a Leo relationship becomes a legendary love story or an exhausting power struggle that leaves both people depleted. Have you noticed this? If you're a Leo, have you felt that strange disconnect where someone checks all the boxes on paper, but something fundamental just doesn't click? Or maybe you've experienced the opposite, someone who shouldn't work according to traditional astrology, but the connection feels effortless, like breathing? If you're loving a Leo, have you felt that confusing push and pull, where one moment you're basking in the warmth of their devotion and the next you're wondering why nothing you do seems enough? That feeling you're experiencing, that's not confusion. That's your energy body telling you something crucial about compatibility that goes far deeper than sun signs. Let me be direct with you. Leo is not looking for what most people think they're looking for. The world sees Leo's confidence, their charisma, their apparent need for attention and admiration, and assumes that's what they want in a partner, someone to worship them, to be their audience, to reflect back their greatness. But that's the surface reading, and surface readings in astrology are where most relationships go to die. What Leo actually needs, what their soul is crying out for, is something far more specific and far more rare. Leo needs a partner who can hold space for their vulnerability without diminishing their power. They need someone who understands that beneath the golden exterior, beneath the performance and the confidence, there's a heart that feels everything with devastating intensity. Leo doesn't just want to be admired. They want to be seen. And there's a universe of difference between those two things. Here's the energetic architecture you need to understand. Leo is ruled by the sun, which means their core identity is built around being a source of light, warmth, and life force for others. This isn't ego, this is their spiritual function. But here's the trap that most Leo relationships fall into. When you're constantly giving light, constantly being the source, constantly holding the center, you need a partner who can receive that light without being burned by it, without becoming dependent on it, and without trying to dim it because it makes them feel small. Most signs cannot do this. Not because they're bad people or incompatible in some moral sense, but because their energetic structure isn't built for it. It's like asking a plant that needs shade to thrive in direct sunlight. It's not about worth. It's about fundamental design. So who can actually handle Leo's intensity? Who has the energetic capacity to dance with the lion without getting burned or trying to cage them? The answer is more specific than you think, and it has everything to do with elemental compatibility, but not in the way you've been taught. Let's start with what doesn't work, because understanding the pattern of failure is just as important as understanding the pattern of success. And I'm going to be honest with you in a way that might make some people uncomfortable. But if you're here, you're ready for truth over comfort. Earth signs: Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. These are often recommended for Leo because they're supposedly grounding and stabilizing. In theory, Earth can provide a foundation for fire. But here's what actually happens in most Leo Earth sign relationships. The Earth sign partner starts trying to manage Leo's fire. They see Leo's expanse in Vins, their generosity, their big dreams and big feelings, and their Earth sign instinct kicks in. Let me make this practical. Let me bring this down to earth. Let me add some realism here. Do you see the problem? Leo doesn't need to be brought down to earth. Leo's entire purpose is to rise, to shine bright, to inspire. When an Earth sign partner constantly introduces limitation, practicality, and caution, Leo doesn't feel supported, they feel suffocated. And the earth sign doesn't feel appreciated, they feel like their valuable perspective is being dismissed as negativity. I've watched this pattern destroy so many Leo-Virgo relationships especially. Virgo sees all the ways Leo could be better, more efficient, more perfect. Virgo thinks they're helping. Leo feels criticized at their core. Neither person is wrong, they're just speaking completely different energetic languages. Water signs present a different challenge. Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, these signs feel everything deeply, and Leo is attracted to that depth initially. Finally, someone who can match their emotional intensity. But here's where it gets complicated. Water signs need emotional safety and privacy to thrive. They need to retreat, to process internally, to have their feelings validated and held gently. Leo's natural expression is external, performative. So do they process by shining, by expressing, by bringing everything into the light. What happens? The water sign partner feels exposed, overwhelmed by Leo's need to make everything public and celebratory. Leo feels confused and rejected by the water sign's need to withdraw and process privately. Cancer takes Leo's confidence personally, feeling like they're not sensitive enough. Scorpio tries to control Leo's social energy, creating power struggles. Pisces gets lost in Leo's shadow, unable to maintain their own identity. Again, this isn't about good or bad, it's about fundamental energetic incompatibility. It's like trying to mix soil and water. Both are valuable, both are necessary, but they don't blend. Now, before I tell you who does work and why, I need you to understand something crucial about Leo's core wound. Because this is what determines whether any relationship can actually succeed long term. Every sign has a core wound, a place where they're most vulnerable, most likely to be hurt. For Leo, that wound is around worthiness. Not worthiness of admiration, worthiness of love. Deep down, beneath all the confidence and performance, Leo carries a fear that if they stop shining, stop performing, stop being magnificent, they won't be loved for who they actually are. They fear that their value is conditional on their output, their brightness, their ability to make others feel good. This is why Leo can be in a relationship where they're constantly praised and admired and still feel fundamentally alone. Because praise for performance isn't the same as love for essence, and Leo's soul knows the difference, even when their ego is being fed. So the question isn't who can admire Leo the most. The question is, who can love Leo when they're not shining? Who can hold space for Leo's darkness, their exhaustion, their moments of doubt, without trying to fix them or becoming frightened by the absence of light? This is where we find Leo's true compatible matches. And there are 3 signs that have the energetic architecture to do this, not perfectly, because no relationship is perfect, but sustainably, in a way that allows both people to grow rather than diminish each other. The first is Aries. And I know what you're thinking, to fire signs. Won't that be too much intensity? Too much ego? Too much competition? But here's what actually happens when Leo and Aries come together. They create a dynamic of mutual inspiration rather than competition. Why? Because Aries and Leo are both fire, but they're different kinds of fire. Aries is the spark, the ignition, the initial burst of flame. Their energy is about initiation, about starting things, about that first rush of enthusiasm. Leo is the sustained fire, the bonfire, the hearth. Their energy is about maintaining, about creating warmth and light that others can gather around. These 2 types of fire don't compete, they complement. When Aries gets excited about a new idea, a new adventure, a new possibility, Leo doesn't feel threatened, they feel energized. Leo takes that Aries spark and turns it into something sustainable, something that can actually warm people and create lasting impact. And Aries doesn't feel controlled or managed by this, they feel supported. Finally, someone who doesn't tell them to slow down or be more realistic. Finally, someone who says yes, let's do this, and then actually has the stamina to see it through. But here's the deeper magic of Leo-Aries compatibility. Aries doesn't need Leo to perform. Aries is so focused on their own forward momentum, their own goals and adventures, that they're not sitting around waiting for Leo to entertain them or make them feel good. This is incredibly freeing for Leo. For the first time, right? They can relax. They can have off days. They can be tired or uncertain or not at their best. And Aries is still moving forward, still generating their own energy, still being their own source of fire. And when Leo does shine, when they're in their full magnificent expression, Aries is genuinely delighted. Not because they need it, but because they appreciate it. That's the difference. Aries celebrates Leo's light without being dependent on it. And that allows Leo to shine from authentic joy rather than from obligation or fear of not being enough. I've seen Leo-Aries couples who've been together for decades. And there's a quality to their relationship that's hard to describe, that's like watching two flames dance together. Sometimes merging, sometimes separate, but always generating more light together than they could alone. They push each other to be braver, to dream bigger, to take up more space in the world. And neither one feels diminished by the other's success, they feel proud. Does this resonate with you? Can you feel the difference between a relationship where you're constantly managing energy levels and trying to find balance, versus one where the energy naturally flows and amplifies? The second sign that can't really match Leo's energy is Sagittarius. And this is where things get really interesting. Because Leo-Sagittarius compatibility operates on a completely different principle than Leo-Aries. If Leo-Aries is about mutual inspiration and shared fire, Leo-Sagittarius is about freedom within devotion. And that might sound contradictory, but stay with me, because this is where we unlock something profound about what Leo actually needs. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, the planet of expansion, philosophy, and truth-seeking. Their entire energetic signature is built around the need for freedom, adventure, and the pursuit of meaning. Most people assume this makes them incompatible with Leo, who supposedly needs constant attention and devotion. But here's what I've observed. Leo doesn't actually need constant attention. What Leo needs is to feel chosen, and there's a massive difference. When Sagittarius chooses to be with Leo, it means something. Sagittarius, who values their freedom above almost everything, who could be anywhere doing anything with anyone, chooses to come back to Leo, chooses to build a life with Leo, chooses to share their adventures with Leo. That choice, coming from someone who genuinely doesn't need anyone, feeds Leo's soul in a way that constant attention from a dependent partner never could. I worked with a Leo woman once who had been in a relationship with a Cancer man for 3 years. He adored her, was always available, always attentive, always making her the center of his world, and she felt suffocated. She came to me feeling guilty, asking what was wrong with her that she couldn't appreciate this devoted partner. But when we looked at her chart, the answer was clear. She didn't want to be someone's whole world. She wanted to be chosen by someone who had their own world. 6 months after that relationship ended, she met a Sagittarius man. He was a travel photographer, gone for weeks at a time, deeply invested in his work and his own journey. And she bloomed. Because when he came home, when he chose to share his experiences with her, when he looked at her with that Sagittarian enthusiasm and said, "You have to come with me next time," she felt genuinely valued, not needed, valued. And for Leo, that distinction is everything. Here's the energetic dynamic that makes this work. Sagittarius gives Leo space to be their own source of light. Sagittarius isn't sitting around waiting for Leo to make them happy or fulfill them or complete them. They're out there living their own expansive life, pursuing their own truth, having their own adventures. And this creates a beautiful paradox. Leo feels more free to shine authentically because they're not responsible for someone else's emotional well-being. They're not performing to keep someone happy. They're just being themselves. And Sagittarius genuinely enjoys who they are. But there's another layer to this compatibility that most people miss. Sagittarius is a truth teller. They're blunt, sometimes brutally honest, and they don't do performative praise. When Sagittarius compliments Leo, Leo knows it's real. There's no manipulation. No hidden agenda. No attempt to manage Leo's ego. Sagittarius just says what they see. And when what they see is Leo's genuine magnificent, their praise lands in Leo's heart in a way that calculated flattery never could. I've watched Leo Sagittarius couples navigate challenges that would destroy other pairings. The Sagittarius partner takes a 6-month work assignment overseas. Instead of falling apart or feeling abandoned, the Leo partner uses that time to pursue their own creative projects, to shine in their own sphere, to remember who they are outside of the relationship. And when Sagittarius returns, they're both more themselves, more vibrant, more excited to share what they've discovered. The relationship doesn't diminish them, it expands them. Both of them. Have you noticed this pattern in your own life? The relationships where you felt most yourself, most free to be fully expressed, were probably not the ones where someone was constantly focused on you. They were the ones where you had space to breathe, space to shine on your own terms, and someone who genuinely celebrated that rather than feeling threatened by it. Now, the third sign that can't really match Leo's energy is going to surprise some people, because it's not a fire sign at all. It's Libra, and before you tell me that air and fire are too different, that Libra is too indecisive for Leo's directness, that it can't possibly work, let me show you why Leo Libra is actually one of the most underrated compatibility matches in the entire zodiac. Libra is ruled by Venus, the planet of love, beauty, and harmony. But here's what most people don't understand about Libra. They're not just seeking harmony for its own sake. They're seeking the kind of beauty that can only exist when two things come together in perfect balance. Libra sees relationships as an art form, and they approach partnership with the same dedication and skill that an artist approaches their masterpiece. When Libra looks at Leo, they don't just see someone who needs attention or admiration. They see someone with an incredible capacity for love, for generosity, for creating beauty and joy in the world. And Libra's gift, their actual superpower, is the ability to create the conditions where that capacity can fully express itself. Libra knows how to make Leo feel safe enough to be vulnerable, celebrated enough to be confident, and challenged enough to keep growing. I'm going to share something with you that I've never seen written about in traditional astrology texts, but I've observed it consistently in real relationships. Libra has the unique ability to love Leo's shadow. Not just tolerate it, not just accept it, actually love it. When Leo is being dramatic, when they're being demanding, when they're in their ego and being difficult, Libra doesn't take it personally. They see it as part of the whole picture, part of what makes Leo who they are. And they have this remarkable capacity to stay centered, to maintain their own equilibrium, while Leo works through whatever they're working through. This is huge for Leo. Because Leo's greatest fear, remember, is that they're only lovable when they're shining, when they're at their best, when they're being magnificent. But Libra loves the whole person. They love Leo on the bad days, the messy days, the days when Leo is tired and cranky and not feeling particularly regal. And they don't love them despite these qualities, they love them including these qualities, as part of the complete human being that Leo is. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Libra challenges Leo in ways that other signs can't. Because Libra is card in a layer, they're initiating, they're leading, they're making decisions. But they're doing it through the realm of ideas, relationships, and social dynamics. Libra will call Leo out when they're being self-centered. But they'll do it with such grace and such clear love that Leo can actually hear it. They'll say something like, "I love your passion, and I'm wondering if you've considered how this might affect the other people involved." And because it's coming from a place of genuine care rather than criticism, Leo can receive it. I watched this dynamic play out beautifully with a Leo-Libra couple I worked with. The Leo partner was a successful entrepreneur, used to making quick decisions and expecting everyone to follow their vision. The Libra partner worked in conflict resolution and mediation. At first, the Leo was frustrated by what they saw as Libra's indecisiveness. They need to consider every angle, their constant weighing of options. But over time, They realized that Libra wasn't being indecisive, they were being thorough. They were considering perspectives and possibilities that Leo, in their forward momentum, was missing. And here's what shifted everything. Libra started framing their input not as corrections but as enhancements. Instead of saying you're not considering this, they'd say imagine how much more powerful this could be if we also included this perspective. They were adding to Leo's vision rather than diminishing it. And Leo, feeling supported rather than criticized, started actively seeking Libra's input. They'd come home excited about a new idea and immediately ask, what do you think? How can we make this even better? That's the magic of Leo-Libra compatibility. Libra has the social intelligence and the emotional sophistication to help Leo become the best version of themselves without making Leo feel like they're not already enough. It's enhancement, not correction. It's evolution, not criticism. And Leo thrives in that environment. There's also something beautiful about how these two signs handle conflict. Leo is direct, sometimes explosively so. When they're upset, you know it. Libra is more subtle, more diplomatic, sometimes to the point of avoiding confrontation altogether. In a dysfunctional Leo-Libra relationship, this creates a pattern where Leo explodes and Libra withdraws, which makes Leo feel abandoned and Libra feel overwhelmed. But in a healthy Leo-Libra relationship, they learn from each other. Leo learns that not every feeling needs to be expressed at maximum volume, that sometimes subtlety and timing matter. Libra learns that avoiding conflict doesn't preserve harmony, it just delays the inevitable explosion. They meet in the middle, creating a communication style that's both honest and kind, both direct and considerate. I need to tell you something else about these three compatible signs: Aries, Sagittarius, and Libra, that ties them all together. Each of these signs has a quality that allows them to maintain their own identity within the relationship. They don't lose themselves in Leo's light. Aries is too focused on their own goals. Sagittarius is too committed to their own freedom. Libra is too invested in maintaining balance and fairness. And this is exactly what Leo needs. Because here's the secret that most people don't understand about Leo. They don't actually want a partner who disappears into their shadow. They want a partner who can stand in their own light. Leo is attracted to strength, to confidence, to people who know who they are and aren't afraid to take up space. When someone diminishes themselves to make Leo feel bigger, Leo doesn't feel honored, they feel burdened. They feel responsible for that person's happiness, for their sense of self, for their entire emotional world, and that's exhausting. But when Leo is with someone who has their own fire, their own truth, their own sense of beauty and balance, someone who chooses to be with Leo but doesn't need Leo to be complete, that's when Leo can finally relax. That's when they can stop performing and start being. That's when the relationship becomes a source of energy rather than a drain on it. Now, I want to address something that might be coming up for you right now. Maybe you're a Leo and you're in a relationship with someone who isn't one of these three signs. Maybe you're loving a Leo and you're feeling discouraged because you're an earth sign or a water sign, and everything I've said suggests it won't work. Please hear me on this. I'm not saying these relationships are doomed. I'm saying they require more conscious effort, more awareness, more willingness to work with the energetic differences rather than against them. I've seen earth sign partners learn to celebrate Leo's expanse instead of trying to contain it. I've seen water sign partners create private rituals of emotional intimacy that honor both their need for depth and Leo's need for expression. I've seen Gemini and Leo create intellectual partnerships that are absolutely electric. I've seen Aquarius and Leo, despite being opposites, build relationships based on mutual respect for each other's individuality. But here's what makes those relationships work. Both people have to be willing to stretch beyond their natural comfort zone. The earth sign has to resist the urge to manage and control. The water sign has to learn to come out of their shell and meet Leo in the light sometimes. And Leo has to be willing to slow down, to go inward, to honor needs that don't come naturally to them. It's possible, but it requires consciousness. It requires both people to see the relationship as a practice, as something they're actively creating rather than something that just happens to them. And honestly, not everyone wants to do that work. Not everyone should have to do that work. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is acknowledge that you're not energetically compatible and release each other to find partners who feel like home rather than homework. So let me give you something practical now. Whether you're a Leo looking for your ideal match, or you're someone who loves a Leo and wants to understand how to create a thriving relationship with them, here's what you need to know about the energetic dynamics that actually matter. First, Leo needs to feel like they're with an equal. Not someone who's competing with them, but someone who has their own power, their own light, their own reason for being here. If you're trying to love a Leo by making yourself smaller, by dimming your own light to make theirs seem brighter, stop. Right now. That's not what they want. Even if they don't consciously realize it. Leo is attracted to strength. They're attracted to people who challenge them, who inspire them, who make them want to be better. Be that person. Shine in your own way. Have your own goals, your own passions, your own non-negotiable less. Leo will respect you more, not less. Second, Leo needs authentic appreciation, not performative praise. They can tell the difference. Their intuition about whether someone genuinely sees them or is just managing their ego is incredibly accurate. So if you're with a Leo, don't compliment them because you think that's what they need to hear. Compliment them when you genuinely see something beautiful, something powerful, something real. And be specific. Don't just say you're amazing. Say, I love how you made everyone at that dinner feel included and valued. Or I'm in awe of how you turn that setback into an opportunity. Or the way you love people is something I've never seen before. That specificity tells Leo that you're actually paying attention. That you actually see them, not just the performance. Third, Leo needs space to be vulnerable without it being turned into a teaching moment or a problem to solve. This is where so many relationships with Leo fall apart. Leo finally lets their guard down, finally shows you the fear or the doubt or the exhaustion they've been carrying, and their partner immediately tries to fix it or give advice or make it better. Don't do that. Just hold space. Just say, I see you. I'm here. You don't have to be strong right now. Let them fall apart if they need to. Let them be messy and uncertain and not okay. That's where real intimacy happens with Leo, not in the shining moments, but in the moments when they trust you enough to stop shining. Fourth, and this is crucial, Leo needs to know that your love isn't conditional on their output. They need to know that if they stopped achieving, stopped performing, stopped being the center of attention, you would still be there, not out of obligation, but out of genuine love for who they are at their core. This is the healing that Leo needs more than anything else. Because their whole life, they've been rewarded for what they do, for how they make others feel, for the light they bring. Very few people have ever loved them for the human being underneath all of that. Be one of those people. Remind them regularly that you love them, not what they do for you or how they make you feel, but the actual person they are. Now, if you're a Leo reading this, I want to talk directly to you for a moment. You spent so much of your life being strong for other people. Being the light. Being the inspiration. Being the one who lifts everyone else up. And that's beautiful. That's your gift. But it's also become your prison, hasn't it? Because somewhere along the way, you started believing that your value is tied to your ability to shine, to perform, to make others happy. And now you're exhausted. You're tired of being on all the time. You're tired of relationships where you feel like you're giving and never quite receiving what you actually need. Here's what I want you to understand. You are allowed to choose a partner based on how they make you feel, not just on how much they admire you. You are allowed to prioritize your own emotional needs, your own growth, your own peace. You are allowed to be with someone who energizes you rather than depletes you, even if that person doesn't fit the traditional image of what a Leo's partner should be. And here's the thing about those three signs I mentioned: Aries, Sagittarius, and Libra. They're not just compatible with you because of some abstract astrological principle. They're compatible because they have the energetic capacity to love you in the way you actually need to be loved. They can celebrate your light without being blinded by it. They can hold your darkness without being frightened by it. They can challenge you without diminishing you. They can be fully themselves while also being fully committed to you. But you have to be willing to let them. You have to be willing to stop performing and start being. You have to be willing to show them the parts of yourself that aren't polished and perfect and ready for public consumption. You have to be willing to need them, not in a dependent way, but in a real way. To say I'm struggling and I need your support. To say I'm scared and I need you to remind me of my strength. To say I'm tired and I need you to hold the light for a while. That vulnerability that's not weakness. That's actually the key to the kind of love you've been searching for your whole life. Because when you let someone see you fully, when you let them love all of you instead of just the shiny parts, that's when you finally get to rest. That's when you finally get to feel truly seen, truly known, truly loved. I want to share one more story with you, because I think it illustrates everything I've been trying to convey. I worked with a Leo man a few years ago who had been through a series of relationships that all followed the same pattern. He would meet someone. They would be dazzled by him. They would fall in love with his charisma and his warmth and his generosity. And for a while, it would feel good. He would feel desired, admired, appreciated. But eventually, he would start to feel hollow. Because none of these partners ever asked him how he was really doing. None of them ever saw past the performance to the person underneath. And when he tried to show them his vulnerability, his doubts, his fears, they would get uncomfortable. They didn't want the real him. They wanted the version of him that made them feel good. He came to me feeling hopeless, wondering if he was just destined to be alone or to be in relationships that felt fundamentally lonely. We looked at his chart, and I saw that he had Venus in Sagittarius. I told him, you need someone who values freedom as much as you do. Someone who has their own life, their own adventures, their own source of joy. Someone who chooses you every day, not because they need you, but because they genuinely want to share their life with you. He was skeptical. He thought he needed someone who was always there, always available, always focused on him. But he agreed to try a different approach. He started dating with different criteria. Instead of looking for someone who was impressed by him, he looked for someone who impressed him. Instead of looking for someone who needed him, he looked for someone who was complete on their own but chose to include him in their life. 6 months later, he met a Sagittarius woman who was a documentary filmmaker. She was passionate about her work, traveled constantly, had a rich inner life and a wide circle of friends. She wasn't looking for someone to complete her. She was looking for someone to adventure with. And when they got together, something shifted for him. For the first time in his life, he felt like he could breathe in a relationship. He could have bad days without feeling like he was letting her down. He could be uncertain or confused or not at his best, and she didn't take it personally. She just loved him. The actual him, not the performance. They've been together for 3 years now. And what strikes me every time I see them is how much more himself he is. He's not performing. He's not trying to be impressive. He's just being, and she's just being. And together they're creating something that feels effortless and alive and real. That's what's possible for you, Leo. That's what's waiting for you when you stop trying to be what you think you should be and start being who you actually are. When you choose partners based on energetic compatibility rather than surface attraction. When you prioritize feeling seen over being admired. And for those of you who love a Leo, I hope you now understand what you're actually signing up for. Loving a Leo isn't about constant praise or making them the center of your universe. It's about being strong enough to stand in your own light while celebrating theirs. It's about seeing past the performance to the tender heart underneath. It's about creating a relationship where both people can be fully expressed, fully alive, fully themselves. The question isn't whether you're compatible with Leo according to some abstract astrological formula. The question is whether you have the energetic capacity to love them in the way they actually need to be loved. Whether you can hold space for their vulnerability without trying to fix it. Whether you can celebrate their success without feeling diminished by it. Whether you can be fully yourself while also being fully committed to them. If you can do those things, if you're willing to do those things, then it doesn't matter what your sun sign is. You can create something beautiful with Leo, but it requires consciousness. It requires effort. It requires both people to show up fully, to communicate honestly, to work with the energetic differences rather than against them. And if you're a Leo who's been settling for relationships that don't truly nourish you, I want you to hear this. You deserve more. You deserve a partner who energizes you rather than depletes you. You deserve someone who loves you for who you are, not just for what you do for them. You deserve a relationship that feels like coming home, not like another performance you have to give. The compatibility I've described with Aries, Sagittarius, and Libra isn't about perfection. It's about ease. It's about relationships where the fundamental energetic dynamic supports both people's growth rather than requiring constant management and negotiation. It's about finding someone whose natural way of being in the world complements yours, so that being together feels like breathing rather than holding your breath. You've spent enough time being strong for everyone else. You've spent enough time performing and proving and making sure everyone around you is okay. It's time to choose a relationship where you get to receive as much as you give, where you get to be vulnerable as well as strong, where you get to be fully human, not just the idealized version of yourself that you think others need you to be. That's what true compatibility